Welcome back with the sessions to after lunch, where we will be discussing about the retrofitting issues in the thermal power plants with the capacity to achieve low emissions with the implementation of new norms in our country. With this session, I would have Mr. Prasad Rao from Ashtec, Mr. Ajay Vijaype from GE is already there, joined with me, and Mr. Ravindra Sharma should be there with us any moment with troubling with some technical issues. So I would request Mr. Vajpayee to proceed further and start with his presentation.
So thank you, Mr. Khatri. Thank you, Mr. Khatri. Today I'll be talking about retrofitting thermal power capacity to achieve low emissions. And on the background, you see an extremely clean plant, though not set up for the emissions requirements what we have in the country today. So when we come to a typical power plant, this is the typical schematic of a coal-fired power plant, wherein we are looking at various measures which we have in place today, or the technical solutions we have in place today, when we need to look at NOx control, mercury control, particulate emissions, or when it comes to DSOx emissions, or when it comes to DSOx or SO2 emissions in the project. There are some other technologies which will also give us other capture of other acid gases, and which are typically our semi-dry FGD solutions. So all of us know that in the country today, we are talking about various norms in various areas. When we are looking at most of the power plants in the country, we are looking at a gamut of solutions which are there for various plants. And what we have tried to put on screen here is just giving you a perspective of what we believe works out very well for us or very well for the customer. And when we are looking at 210 megawatt fleet, we are for the DNOx solution, we are looking at in-furnace measures. So basically staged air firing, and so that you can bring down the total primary NOx which we are generating in the system. For DSOx, we are typically talking about our semi-dry FGD solutions. When we are going in for semi-dry FGD solutions, we are these solutions have with them a fabric filter to bring down not only the SO2 emissions, other acid gases emissions, but would also bring down the particulate emissions in the plant. And you would not need any modifications to the existing stack. Whereas when we look at solutions for larger power plants, and when we are talking about larger power plants, I mean 500 megawatt plus, having a substantial residual life and a high PLF, we would typically see in-furnace measures. Maybe an SCR may be needed if the plant is commissioned after January 2017. Then for DSOx, you would go in for wet FGD solutions, typically limestone wet FGD solutions. And particulate emissions may also need certain upgrades if if the plant is not designed for low emissions. But if the plant is typically after 2017, then the plants would be suitable for low emissions, and you would not be doing much on the particulate emissions front. And the stack would definitely need to be lined, or a new stack may need to be put up. And that all these answers or solutions are selected by the end user based on the overall levelized cost of electricity, which he'll be able to pass on to the customer. When it comes to the NOx solutions, we see that most of the plants, we are able to bring down the emissions well within the norm. It was 300 earlier, but for the plants between up to 2016, but now the emission norms have changed, and we can go in with 450 also, I believe. And I think I've seen the notification for that as well. And these can be achieved by primary measures itself, that is going in for low NOx burners, or oil fire air, or SOFA, which we call it. And with these, we will be able to achieve the primary NOx emissions well within the norms. And if we need to really go in the range of 100 milligrams or lower, then definitely we need to go in for SCRs as well. And when we talk about these solutions today, GE is a market leader when it comes to NOx solutions. We are almost doing 70% of the 24 gigawatt, which is currently under execution within the country. Almost 3 plants have been commissioned at NTPC Dadri and Vindhyachal, totaling to around 1.5 gigawatt. And other plants are in various stages of execution, and they will be, believe, commissioned shortly. When it comes to particulate emissions, if you are having emissions suitable for the plant suitable for 100 milligrams, then we have a gamut of solutions. Typically, you can have a fabric filter or a new ASP or an ESP to fabric filter conversion, or you can go in for upgrades of the ESP controls or parts to reach an emission requirement what you are looking for in that particular project. And even if you go in for dry FGD or semi-dry FGD solutions with a fabric filter, then you will be able to meet the particulate matter control. Currently, the biggest dilemma which all the users are facing in the country today is primarily related to DSOx emissions, DSOx, and the customer at the end of the day needs to really decipher the puzzle which you are seeing on the screen. You need to really decide what kind of reagent you are going to use, what kind of byproduct you are going to use. There are multiple technology available, multiple reagents, each having their nuances, different capital costs, different O&M costs. And with so much confusion, you really need to spend, as an end user, needs to spend a lot of time to decide what he would do on a specific project. The decisions are governed by the unit size, capacity factors, balanced service life, the amount of sulfur which is coming in the fuel, the space availability in the plant, the cost of the reagent, the quality of the reagent which is available, and the byproduct which can be sold or disposed. A bit slow from my side. Yeah. So today when we look at India, we are looking at primarily wet FGD solutions for large power plants, 500 megawatt plus. Semi-dry FGD when we are talking about smaller plants, and seawater FGD if it's a coastal and an open cycle seawater based cooling water plant. So in that case, we would go in for seawater FGD, but otherwise we will go in for open spray tower with wet FGD and limestone as the reagent. So the reason why I'm talking about various technologies is because this is what you are going to see in the market, and these are cost effective and really give us a perspective on what works for a specific plant. I will focus going forward a bit more on the various work execution projects which we are doing in the country. So if you look at GE, we are executing a lot of projects within the country. And almost as we speak, we are talking about 21 towers, even though this slide talks about 19. There are 2 more towers which we are currently under execution. We're mostly with NTPC plants, and we focused primarily on NTPC simply because we felt that theirs is a very, very open bidding system, and we had a perspective on their timelines. And with clarity of technical details available, we felt it will be a more consistent approach and ordering would happen. And that is what was our perception, and that is what really has happened with NTPC almost ordering out almost all their DSOx requirement till date. Then other than that, we are currently under execution a project at Aditya Lapanga. We are retrofitting 1 unit of 150 megawatt, and the entire captive power plant is suited for 900 megawatts. So once we complete the first unit, we will discuss with the customer, and customer is looking forward to execution of other units once the first unit is commissioned and he sees the proof of the concept for the dry FGD in India. while we are talking about issues related to emissions, the key challenges which we are facing within the country is the overall cost related to OPEX and CAPEX, and how the extra CAPEX which the generator needs to invest to install these plants is a major issue, and that is under review when they are going in for approvals with the authorities. The ease of execution, the amount of space available in the plant, the availability of reagents and the usage of byproduct and water availability also becomes a big constraint. There are also supply chain related constraints when we are looking at sourcing of equipment, because many of these equipment with the current requirements which we are going to have do not have indigenous vendors readily available. So we are typically sourcing these from outside the country, some of them. And then the regulatory part comes in as far as the measurement, timelines, and penalties. So these are the typical biggest challenges which we are facing in the country, and we believe that we are in a position to provide an optimized, evaluated solution to the customer when it comes to selecting the technology. What is important for the end user is the overall net present value or the cost of the OPEX and the CAPEX. And what we believe is that for a large power plant, say 600 megawatt or larger, or even 500 megawatt plus, the limestone FGD works out to be the preferred solution because it's the lowest in terms of cost, the overall cost. But when we are looking at smaller plants, typically plants in the order of 150 megawatt, 200 megawatt, or even 300 megawatt, we see that, and with a residual life of say 10 years plus, then we are seeing that the semi-dry FGD, as we are talking about, with lime as the reagent, works out to be one of the most optimal solutions for the project, for the end user. From a space requirement perspective, what you are seeing is a layout from a project under execution, and we are looking at almost 36,000 meters square of area in the plant to set up the entire system as per the requirements of the customer. Whereas when we look at dry FGD solutions, on the right-hand side, what you are seeing on the picture is a dry FGD solution for around 600 megawatt, which is going to, we believe, can be fitted within a small space of around 6,000 meters square for the entire system. So this is the primary benefit when we are looking at semi-dry FGD. It is compact and can fit into a given space. The other challenges which we see is there's a substantial amount of construction which needs to be done when we are looking at wet FGD solutions. There are lots of tanks, stacks, absorber, electrical buildings which we need to execute. And this is a picture from one of the slides which we are executing, where a lot of work and a lot of construction activities are going on while we speak. Whereas when it comes to dry FGD solutions, the solutions are modular, they are compact, small in size, and then they can be set up to meet the requirements of the space available within a given plant. So there's a lot of flexibility which is available. This picture shows various configurations based on which the dry FGD solution can be set up to the requirement of the customer to meet the emission norms. Another just small picture here telling you how our semi-dry FGD system looks like. It can be behind an ESP. In this picture, you don't see an ESP after the air preheater, because the semi-dry system can actually be set up for particulate control as well as a SOx control. But in India, we have the requirement of fly ash collection and reutilization of fly ash. So definitely in India, we are proposing this solution after the ESP. And so even if you have an old plant with an ESP emitting, achieving higher emissions than what are needed for the project, for your from the environmental regulation, you can set up a semi-dry FGD system behind the ESP to meet the low emissions of SO2 as well as particulate. On the right-hand side, what you are seeing is a kind of a J-duct reactor, This is a kind of a fluidized bed where the reaction between the lime and the flue gas is taking place. And not only is the reaction taking place, this is also the cooling zone and the mixing zone. So when the gases are coming at, say, 150 degrees, they are basically cooled in this particular J-duct reactor, and the reaction with lime also takes place in this reactor, and some part of the reaction also takes in the fabric filter. If you look at the reagents, you are typically looking at lime or quick lime or hydrated lime, and the reactions would basically be SO2 plus calcium hydroxide giving you calcium sulfide. Then calcium sulfate, part of the calcium sulfide would get converted to calcium sulfate. SO3 would also get captured in addition to HCl and HF if there is any in the flue gas stream. So because most of the acid gases, that is HCl, HF, and SO3 would be getting captured in the system, even though that the system might be operating at a lower temperature, we do not see any issues related to corrosion in the existing stacks. And that is why we typically talk about no modifications on the stack when it comes to semi-dry FGD solutions. Another picture of the various components, what you are seeing is internal plates or disperser plates, which are used to disperse the reagent, and the guide vanes in the system. Each J-duct reactor behind it has a mixer and a hydrator. The hydrator is used to convert quick lime to hydrated lime. If the customer can bring in hydrated lime directly, then the hydrator would not be required. And we have a mixer basically, which is designed to mix the lime which is collected in the system, which is recirculated back into the reactor, and fresh lime which is being brought in from the hydrator into the system. So introduction of fresh lime and recycled lime is done in the reactor to achieve very good capture of SO2 with minimal consumption of the reagents. Another picture on the right is showing a large fabric filter which has been installed behind the semi-dry FGD. So this is another picture giving you a perspective of large installation base which is there for this technology. And now as we speak, we are currently executing one project in India itself. So had 20 minutes to talk about. So I hope I have been able to give you a perspective on the solutions which are available and are suitable for various end users in the plant. The good part about semi-dry FGD, and we are talking here because we are seeing a lot of constraints on schedule, a lot of constraints on supply chain when it comes to wet FGD. When it comes to dry FGD, these constraints are not applicable because most of the vendor base is totally different, and with a very limited import content coming in on the supplies. So we see a good perspective there, shorter life cycle cost, shorter execution cost, and less space. So we are able to manage various challenges which we are facing with in smaller plants or with limited space, and these can be achieved with a dry FGD solution. With this, I thank the panel to allowing me to speak for the limited time we had. Thank you. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Vajpayee, for keeping your presentation clips and on time. But if you wish to have some more time, we didn't mind it.
Well, I was given a shot for 20 minutes, so I thought I will keep it short, crisp, and on time. So if there are any questions, I can definitely take them.
We will take the questions after this. All the speakers are done.
Okay.
So I would now request Mr. Ravindra to share his presentation, please.
So good afternoon to everybody. So my name is B.H. Ravindra. I work for Tata Power. Recently we acquired the Prayagraj power project. So through our Unicent, that is a Resurgent India Private Limited, which is one of the companies where we have an investment. Now, I would like to give some perspective about the financing of this project, the flue gas desulfurization system. I'm sure the earlier speakers have already clearly explained, what are the technologies involved, and then, what kind of systems are there, and then, how to install that. I would like to give some perspective on this particular project, what we had acquired recently, and what challenges we have been facing on that. One is, as he was saying, there are two systems, wet system and dry system. Both will require, calcium bicarbonate or lime, as what it is called. And this will help us to reduce the SOx, as what I understand. But for NOx reduction, normally the NOx burners itself will be suitably used, and that helps in that. That is a part of the combustion process itself and becomes an integral part of the steam generator system. Are you hearing me? Hello?
Everybody is able to hear, sir. You can please proceed.
Okay.
You won't hear the voice of the participants.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So as I see in fitment of the the FGD, one has to look at the present SOx levels the power plant is emitting, and then they have to certainly do a differential of SOx levels, what has been prescribed by the MOEF for that particular project, and what is presently the project is emitting. Now, the other important thing that one has to look at is the space that is available for inserting the FGD between the outlet of the ESP and the inlet of the chimney, as what we understand.
Mr. Ravindra, just to interrupt, do you have a PPT which you are trying to play and talk, or?
No, I don't have a PPT. I'm just, talking out of my, the whatever I have prepared with me. If you want, I can share it at a later date. But right now I don't have a PPT with me.
No problem.
So then, in the power, why I'm giving this information is because all these have an impact on the capital cost and the operating cost of the FGD fitment. So that's the reason why I'm getting into some of these details. The next thing is, you should have the gypsum handling system market for the gypsum whenever that gets produced. And because of many times, because of the land availability constraint, people would not have planned for all those. So you need to have a gypsum handling system. Then you need to have space for that. Then the next important thing is the shutdown time that is required for carrying out this FGD insertion. It could be anywhere between 2 months to 6 months, depending on the layout constraints what we have, and the pace at which the work can be done at site. Because it is not advisable to keep the plant shut for insertion of this FGD system for a long time, because it has an effect on your bottom line. Now, next, let's come to the the financing of the FGD system. I feel it is always better to seek the debt financing for this from the existing lenders themselves. If the existing lenders are still not completely repaid the loan, it is actually an advantage to get that finance from the existing lenders, because the plant cannot run if the FGD is not installed, because beyond a point, they will be forced to shut down. So the existing lenders will need to help you in that in financing that portion of the project. You could take in the same debt equity ratio at which you have financed the power plant. You could even, if you have slightly sufficient more equity, then you probably can even go for off balance sheet financing, such kind of things where you can look at it. Next is, another important thing is the coordination between the power procurer. That is, let's say if you are supplying power to any of the electricity board, or let's say a power coordination company like UPPCL, any such companies, then you need to also have a coordination between the power procurer, load dispatch center, and you need to have an agreement for the staggered downtime of your power plant, and agreement for the increased capital cost, and revision of the tariff in the form of increased O&M or additional variable tariffs. That's very important for successful commissioning of the FGD. Then another important thing is that you will have challenges with the regulatory system. It could be an ERC approval, Sometimes it may even go to the levels of the APTEL to get you a amendment of the PPA if you have a PPA already for the increased tariffs, because many of these FGDs can even increase your tariff by about 25 paise to 30 paise per unit. So summarizing, what I'm saying is the economics of the FGD. If you look at about something like 400 thermal power plants need to install the FGD systems, and as we have estimated, of course it depends on the system that you are going to actually install. An average cost of about 0.3 to 0.6 crores per megawatt is what we see and needs to be considered. That depends on the present and the required SOx reduction requirements. Now, this, of course, we assume that there's adequate space for insertion of the FGD systems. Otherwise, you will have to probably take out the FGD system, have a long route to get into to get that system in place, because a lot of layout changes means the downtime will be more. Then your capital cost also will increase. Second thing is the operating cost. We believe that approximately about increased auxiliary consumption of about 0.75% is what we believe. It's an average one. Again, it depends on the system and the efficiency of that system. Then it leads to increased water consumption and additional investment in handling the lime and other chemicals that are required for this process. Then there is increased labor cost also, cost of servicing the debt and interest one has to take. Now, the other challenge, as what I said, is the pass-through of the tariff in the PPA plants. That is something which you need to ensure. I mean, many times the electricity regulatory commissions may not approve the cost even before you incur it. They might say, no, you incur it, then we will see. So, there could be some challenges in getting the, approved increased costs at a later date. Then another thing that can help is the clean energy cess. There were some discussions that they wanted to combine with the GST. I don't know whether that has happened. Today, I think the coal still incurs about 400 rupees per ton of the clean energy cess. So if that goes out, and if that particular power plant is considered as a green power plant because it reduces SOx and NOx, then that will help you to do a better financing of this FGD system. This is what I have to tell. If there's any question on that, I can take
it. Thanks, Ravindra. I have another speaker, Prasad Rao, who would be talking about the constraints on the limestone area.
Oh, great. Okay.
I have his presentation as a recorded one. One good opportunity which we have in this portal is that any speaker who's unfortunately not able to come or due to some other, they can always share their video recorded presentation, which I can play.
Great.
I'll just play his video recording.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is day 2 of SOXNOX 2020. Last 1.5 day sessions, we could see the various presentations in which a lot was discussed about FGD, its requirement of FGD for Indian power plants. Today, briefly I'll cover the retrofitting of thermal power plants with FGDs. It's a big challenge for the Indian power plants. There are nearly 20,000, 2 lakh megawatt is already commissioned, and at least 70% of the power plants have to be done retrofitting with on the existing power stations. Basically, if you go back and see what exactly is sulfur dioxide and oxygen flue gas. Exit flue gas for a power plant consists of CO2, predominantly CO2, and about 6% of oxygen, and in small quantities of CO, sulfur dioxide, and oxides of nitrogen and particulate matter. This is basically when we are firing coal in the boiler. After the combustion, huge amount of CO2 gets generated, and some amount of oxygen will also be there. And because of sulfur content in coal, there will be emission of sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen. SO2 is the exit flue gas, depends on the content of sulfur content in the coal and quantum of coal fired in the power plant. NOx level basically depends on the quantum of nitrogen available in the coal and the combustion process itself, because we are using oxygen, so that the nitrogen available in the air, which is used for combustion, and also nitrogen in the coal together play a role in deciding the quantity of NOx in the flue gases. I touched the topic of sulfur dioxide SO2 emissions basically. In 2019, if you go by statistics, India emitted about 21% of global anthropogenic, that is man-made sulfur dioxide emissions, about nearly 6,000 kilotons per annum. That's precisely 5,950. You say 6,000 kilotons of per annum. Though emission levels are in ppm, but the amount of coal fired in the boilers, you see so much of sulfur dioxide is emitted in the atmosphere. It's almost nearly nearly double than what it is Russia. Russia stands the list too, where they emit about 3,362 kilotons per annum, and China occupied the third position, 2,156 kilotons per annum. Because basically Chinese power plants are already fitted with, most of the power plants already fitted with SO2, that is FGD, SO2 scrubbing, that is called FGD units. So in India, the SO2 emissions are very high compared to other power plants in the world, because of which the MOEF, Minister of Environment and Forests and Climate Change, have come up with the new standards, wherein they are divided into three sections. One is the power plants which are commissioned before 31st December 2003, that's old power plants, wherein particulate matter, the standards was 100 milligram per normal meter cube. Sulfur dioxide for smaller plants less than 500 megawatt is 600 milligram per normal meter cube, and above 500 megawatt, 200 milligram per normal meter cube. NOx is about 600 milligram per normal meter cube. And then Hg, the mercury is a small quantity, that is 0.03 milligram per normal meter cube per power plant which are above 500 megawatt. And if you go, the standard is further, it says that if the plants are commissioned after 31st December 2003 and before December 2016, it's a comparatively a newer power plants. Particulate matter standards have also been drastically reduced. That is, they have to maintain 50 milligram per normal meter cube. It's for a small power plant less than 500. The SOx limits are kept at 600 milligram per normal meter cube, and above is 200 milligram per normal meter cube, above 500 megawatt. NOx was initially kept at 300 milligram per normal meter cube, which was later increased to 450 milligram per normal meter cube, which has been done very recently, that is 19th October. MOEF has revised it, because most of the power plants are just above 300 and below 450. And controlling NOx is a little bit complicated, and it needs a lot of retrofits and a lot of engineering to be done. So most of the power plants which are commissioned during this period are just crossing 300 and less than 500. So limits have been increased to 450 after a lot of consideration, reviewing the performance of various power plants and testing bit increased. So with that, a lot of relaxation has come to various power plants. And then further, the MOEF says that the newer power plant, that some power plants are commissioned after 1st January 2017. Particulate matter, the standards have been very stringent now. It is 30 milligram per normal meter cube. Sulfur dioxide is 100 for all power stations, whether it is small or big, 100 milligram per normal meter cube. It's a very challenging task to keep below 100, but NOx 100 milligram per normal meter cube. It's also pretty tough. So that means which are new power plants that are coming out past Jan 2017. Invariably, most of these are bigger, large size power plants. If you see the CA report and the schedule of commissioning, if you see that These are all the power plants which are larger in size, above 500, and most of the power plants are coming up with FGD along with the main equipment. That's much easier. The challenge is for those power plants which are commissioned earlier to this. So what exactly is FGD? It is removal of sulfur emission from the exhaust gases. Source of sulfur emissions is sulfur in fuel burns and converted to SO2. FGD processes, we have various processes for FGD. Wet FGD process, that is limestone gypsum process. Reagent required is limestone. Byproduct we get is gypsum. Soda ash or caustic soda process. The reagent required is soda ash or caustic soda. Sodium bisulfite is the byproduct. Ammonia process. Ammonia is the reagent. Ammonium sulfate is the byproduct which is coming up. But basically, the number 2 and 3 under first FGD process are a little difficult in handling things. And use of byproduct is also very difficult. That's why most of the power plants are coming up with wet FGD using limestone, because byproduct is a gypsum. Gypsum has got utilization. These byproducts can be utilized in agricultural sector. Many of the and in industry also, like gypsum is good quality. It is being used for gypsum boards and all other, as a building material also it can be used. And this gypsum also is predominantly used in agricultural sector. So that byproduct handling will be much easier and doesn't create any other challenges. And there is one more process, seawater technology. Of course, there are very few power plants which are using seawater technology, like Dhanu thermal plant, where for seawater technology for 100% scrubbing of gases, seawater is used, wherein there are no reagents required, but a lot of auxiliary consumption. It consumes a lot of auxiliary consumption. And after treating the seawater in the scrubbers, we come to an aeration tank, and then it is aerated and then let into the sea. But now, and then Tata Power also in Mumbai, they have got the seawater scrubbing. But the new power plants, the permissions are not given for seawater process. Even at coastal-based power plants are also using limestone technology only. Semi-dry process, I discussed a bit of that. That is a flash absorption process, lime and hydrated lime, calcium sulfate and sulfate. Spray dryer absorption, lime and hydrated lime. That is also byproduct is same. Basically, these two technologies are predominantly used in smaller size boilers, captive boilers basically, which can be handled easily. Selection criteria for FGD is cost and availability of the reagent. Basically, what is the cost of the reagent and availability of the reagent. Should have good quality of limestone, should be available in affordable price, and either revenue or disposal of byproduct. With the byproduct, the gypsum in case of wet lime basis, byproduct gypsum is a big challenge. It like fly ash, the way how power plants are struggling to utilize 100% fly ash. They will have to find a way to use the byproduct gypsum. Gypsum in a smaller quantity, yes, it can be marketed and used. If large quantity of gypsum is made available from the power plant, it becomes a big challenge. And selection also depends on what is the sulfur dioxide content in exhaust gases. Basically, if you are using an Indian coal, the technology is same, but the input of reagent consumption and all will reduce, because sulfur dioxide levels will not be much compared to the power plants which are using the imported coal, which has got high sulfur content. And the most important thing is the SO2 emission regulation. What is the emission regulation says, and without FGD, how much it is there and how much gas to be reduced, meeting the emission requirement. That is what is the criteria for designing the FGD. And then finally, the consumption, power consumption, how much it is, and water consumption, how much it is. Though water is recycled and used in that process, still some quantity of water is used. And power also is required to be done because continuously power requirement is there for the equipment. It is additional cost to the power plant. I'll just quickly take you through the chemical reaction part of it. It's everybody all know it's very simple reaction. Limestone mixed with sulfur dioxide in presence of water, calcium sulfate it becomes, and carbon dioxide. Further, calcium sulfite in semi-hydrated plus water with oxygen, it becomes gypsum. The wet lime process I will take you through. It's a simple block diagram. You can see the block diagram. One side the chimney, the flue gases are coming from the chimney. Through a booster fan, it goes inside. Inside this tower, they'll have a separate chimney for these FGDs. Of course, it's a smaller in size it will be. And then the lime feed is from this side, and then water is mixed. The slurry goes into that, and it is pumped into the tower from top, and flue gas is allowed to pass from the bottom. It's simple in nature. Here the chemical reaction takes, and a scrubbed flue gas go out of the chimney, and whatever the sludge or whatever it is there, which is settled down, again reused. And then finally, water the sludge is coming out, and of course this basically forms your gypsum gets formed over here, and this is taken out and dried it, and then taken out to trucks outside. This is a very simple process. You've already seen the chemical reaction. The process is also simple, but a lot of equipment is to be installed there. FGD, I'll just take you through a case study of FGD, which is a 50 megawatt plant having a pet coke firing. Pet coke, why I have taken it is it has got 78% sulfur. Reagent used in particular 50 megawatt plant is 78% of pure lime. Byproduct is gypsum, purity of 73% you get, and 15% moisture. This is very much acceptable in the industry and even for agricultural purpose also. This was commissioned way back in 2012 for a captive power plant associated with the cement industry. The exhaust gases that is which is treating is 280,000 meter cube per hour. Exhaust temperature 140 degrees. Inlet sulfur, you see this because of using pet coke. The inlet sulfur content itself is sulfur dioxide level itself is 11,420 milligram per normal meter cube. The sulfur emissions, it is this FGD which was commissioned had got 92% efficiency. That was almost, it has drastically it has reduced the sulfur dioxide levels. The electrical consumption for this itself is 950 kW, almost nearing to 1 megawatt. Limestone consumption is almost 4.3 tons per hour. Water consumption is 18 meter cube per hour. And the gypsum generated is 7,000, almost nearly 1.5 times the quantum of limestone. We are using 4,300. It is almost 7,500 on that basis. You are getting the gypsum almost 1.5 times. 1.7 times the waste is getting out. So this is a big challenge. Limestone, getting limestone is one challenge, and the gypsum which is getting produced as a byproduct handling it, which is another challenge. This is a small. I have selected this 50 megawatt plant to show how exactly the numbers. The photographs. These are the normal chimney is there by the side of this FGD chimney. And next photograph, you see the white pure, like almost like a sand. It is a byproduct, the gypsum. It's a good quality gypsum which has got. I think it is readily accepted in the cement industry as such for making cement, and for agricultural purpose also it is there, and for other industry purpose also it can be utilized. I have already another model I have put it over here. the how much is the amount of emissions for 500 megawatt coal-fired power plant using Indian coal. Typical, these are the numbers typically used. If you see at the bottom, these are all taken out through a model which I worked out on the model almost. If you see emissions 37.8 tons per day is the SO2 emissions, and in terms of milligram per meter cube, it comes 940, almost less than about 1000 milligram per meter cube. And in ppm it's only 360 or something. But as per the statutory, if this power plant is commissioned before 31st, the statutory limit is 200. That means you have to reduce from nearly 1000 to 200. That is 20%, the 80% you have to reduce. That is to achieve this less than 200. That means that's how FGD has to be selected for this sort of a power plant. These are typical I have taken, which may vary a little bit, not more than that. So around 37 to 40 tons will be these emissions if you are using these coal. And I just wanted to throw some light on what is the measurement, where exactly the measurement of sulfur dioxide and based on NOx is taken. Generally, people will say, okay, I will take it on ID fan discharge and all that. Okay, it's not allowed. It doesn't give any representative reading. These are the measurement as prescribed by the pollution board. The measurement should be done online and it is cross-checked with portable analyzers. Basically, they work on the principle of ultraviolet ray or infrared radiation working principle. These tapping for measurement of sulfur dioxide NOx should be at 1/3 of the chimney height for getting the correct representative reading. Or if you are taking a sample from there, representative sample will be from there. Generally, tapping is provided in all power plants. Tapping is provided at 70-meter elevation of the chimney, where online pollution monitoring equipment are also located, and gas sample is also taken from there to cross-check whether it is. My friends from power station, they agree that it's a challenging task going up to 70-meter elevation and then collecting the sample. This has been done. Most of the pollution board representatives go off and collect the sample and cross-check to the online analyzers, which are also mounted on the same elevation. Just put a photograph to show how it is. In some power plants, there are no lifts. Of course, the modern power plant, they have lifts from internal inside the shell. They have multi-flue chimneys. They have internal lifts. So they are going. I have put a chimney of the old power plant, or maybe not very old, 10 years back, where there's no chimney, lift inside. They had to go through a monkey ladder and go up to 70 meters and collect the sample. It's a tough challenge. It's not so easy. And installation and maintenance also takes challenge, and the trained manpower should be used for that. Challenges for retrofitting of FGDs. So first of all, already the power plants are old. They have a lot of space constraints because it was not envisaged. FGD was not envisaged in the design of those power plants. Now with the new standards, they are asked to identify the space near to the chimney, that is between near to the ESP and around the chimney, and install the FGD. Actually, it takes considerable amount of floor space. So many of the power plants which are 210 below capacity, they don't have space, and since space is not available, ministry has advised them not to run these power plants. I think ministry has come up with a list of such power plants which will not be used for continuous generation. And there may be in a few years they are thinking of decommissioning those power plants also. Of course, 500 megawatt and above. More recent power plants, they have FGDs. Power plants are not provided with FGD, but they will have the space. That's now mandatory to leave space for FGDs. And then the capex is very high. It is said around 60, anywhere between 65 to 70 lakh per megawatt, which is a substantial amount. And then additional operating costs. That's in terms of energy, in terms of procuring the reagent. That's additional challenge. Above all these things, the funding problem. All the power plants are all operating at part loads, say 50 to 70. The average PLF itself has come down from 75 to 80% to it has come down near to between 50 to 60, somewhere around 55 it is. That means most of the power plants are running at part loads, and running itself, running the power plant itself become a challenge. Now with this requirement of retrofitting of FGDs in the running unit, the additional funding is required. That's a big challenge for the power plant. And another challenge is limited availability of technology support for timely completion of the project. Yes, there are few technology providers in the country like BHL, Thermax, and others. But still, the amount of market available for FGDs and the technology available within the country is, you can say, limited. That's why we are looking at the technology from outside the country. That itself is another challenge. And with all these challenges, another challenge is for increased cost of power generation. Power generation is, with the increased OPEX and CAPEX, the cost of generation is increasing. And another challenge is the handling of rejects. Of course, is the operational issue. With some tie-ups, it can be handled. But other than this, all the above are challenges. But still, I'm sure all the power plants which are running are making their attempts to come up with installation of FGDs as a retrofitting concept. I'm sure we can, and fortunately, government has also relaxed the dates given. Earlier, it was December 31st, 2017. It has been further extended based on the feedback and the representation various power stations. So, with the challenges in mind, with the challenges available to the power plant power utilities, we'll have to go and meet the targets. That's what, there's no second opinion about it, second idea about it. We'll have to do it. And we definitely face these challenges, and definitely will come up with some solution for having these FGDs in place. Before I conclude, I just throw, since the seminar is for SOX NOx with the relaxed norms from 300 to 450 is increased. It can be controlled. Just only one slide I put for NOx control and its methodologies. Without using complicated technology, we can still control. Definitely within the relaxed norms now. This is done by low NOx burners, overfire dampers. Most of the power plants which are commissioned recently and all plants which are 500 megawatt and above capacities, they have this facility already. Low NOx burners they have, and overfire dampers as well. And some of the power plants, in the design itself, they are taken care by gas recirculation system they have installed. So that also reduces the NOx, which is under control. That is another post-gas recirculation or gas recirculation, almost same concept. And in smaller capacity boilers, water and steam injection is done, but not in a bigger power plant. In captive boilers, they are able to control by selectively using steam for reducing the NOx. But in a very few places we have seen. Oxygen reduction to better combustion optimization. Yes, my colleagues from other power utilities agree that by fine-tuning the oxygen requirement in the combustion also helps in, that is excess air we call it, also helps in reducing the NOx. And then post-combustion controls, anyway, these are all high capital intensive, that is select non-catalytic reduction and catalytic reduction. Of course, for this you need ammonia, urea, and chemical treatment and all that. Of course, with relaxed norms, I don't think it will be required now. So that's what I wanted to share from my side for NOx reductions. So with this I end. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity, and be associated with you and understanding of after going through the presentations and the conference. A lot of knowledge sharing is taking place. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the recordings which has come in. Now, this is another way where we can express ourselves if we are not physically or virtually also present. Now, we are ready to take questions from the audience. Before I proceed with the questions, Mr. Prasad Rao is not there to answer the questions right now, but he is there on the WhatsApp group. His questions can be typed in by the audience. The first question which I see is from Rabindranath Sarkar. How much cost is required to implement FGD for 200 megawatt units and 500 megawatt unit, and NOx for 200 megawatt and 500 megawatt units? How much vacant space is required for the same?
So, shall I take the question, Ajay from GE?
Yes, sir.
So typically when we are looking at NOx solutions, we are going for combustion modifications when we are looking at smaller or even 500 megawatt plants. And that doesn't really require any additional space in the plant. But when it comes to FGD solutions, if you're going in for a wet FGD solutions, depends a lot on the reagent storage and the byproduct storage requirements which you might be planning to have on a project. How many days of storage you want to keep for the reagent and the byproduct. But FGD per se would typically require around 10 to 15,000 meters square for 500 megawatt sized plant. Depends a lot on how the space is available, how close to the stack is available, or how far away it is available. But if you are going in for, say, semi-dry FGD solutions, then you are typically looking at, say, almost, it could be 2,000 or 2,500 meters square of area when we're looking at all the systems, including control room and everything. So it depends a lot from one plant to another and the space availability and what configuration.
I have Dr. Rajesh Tilali for a question which I gave response for.
Hello, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible, please.
Sir, I have two questions. Number one from Mr. Bajpayee. For semi-dry FGD system, the position of reactor is between chimney and after ESP. Why it is so, sir?
We are keeping the reactor for the semi-dry FGD after the ESP because in the reactor we are taking reaction between lime or either between slake lime and SO2. And if suppose you want to put this reactor before the ESP, then the fly ash will get contaminated with the alkalis because you are adding Ca calcium hydroxide. And if it is getting contaminated by the alkalis, then the fly ash is not usable in the cement industry. So you first have to meet the norm or the requirement where the fly ash needs to be reusable in the cement industry or elsewhere. So you cannot really contaminate the fly ash. And that is why in India, when we are proposing semi-dry FGD solutions, we are installing the semi-dry system after the ESP or after the existing ID fan. And we put in a separate stream where we put in the semi-dry FGD solution followed by a booster fan. And we would typically try to reuse the existing chimney because installing a new chimney is also a substantial amount of cost.
So if the prospective user is not cement industry, then it can be put before ESP also?
No, I'm talking about the fly ash which you are generating with the coal because every power plant in the country has to reutilize the fly ash. The fly ash would have to be sold to users. And if you need to sell there is a requirement that you cannot contaminate the same.
No, if the ash is not to be used in cement industry, if ash is not to be used in cement industry, in that case, can the reactor be placed before ESP also?
So there are projects where we have installed the entire semi-dry FGD system replacing an ESP. So you can eliminate the ESP. There have been some projects where they have been installed in front of the ESPs also, but the performance under various operating conditions has not been very good, because the the particulate collector is also used as a reaction device, and the reaction between the reagent and the on the filter bag also provides a surface area for the reaction. So that helps. So we are typically having projects where ESPs have been replaced and new semi-dry FGD systems have been installed in the place for such plants. But in India, because of free fly ash utilization, we don't recommend that.
So one more question, sir. In case of coal, which is having more iron content, say 10 to 15%, what would be the impact on wet FGD system?
You are supposed to install the wet FGD system typically after the ESP, and with such high iron content in the fly ash, the your existing ESP system would actually perform very, very well. So you should not have any major issues coming because the dust coming into the FGD will be very, very small, and there should not be any impact on the FGD performance because of presence of iron oxide in the fly ash.
If that escapes from ESP, is there any would be there any effect on FGD system, absorber system also from the escaping iron?
If the dust or fine fly ash escapes the ESP, then the purity of the gypsum will get impacted in some ways. And other than that, typically if the dust load goes beyond a certain value, all your equipment which is there in the FGD stream, the recirculation pumps, the booster fans, they will get exposed to higher dust load and a different kind of dust, and there could be erosion issues which can be seen. So such high dust load plants are never existing when we talk of wet FGDs. Most of the wet FGD plants are after the ESP with clean gases.
As far as reaction chamber is concerned, would there be any effect on the reaction between sulfur dioxide and lime solution in presence of iron?
We have not done, I don't think we have any experimental studies on that to verify, but logically I don't see any major reasons why it should happen. In fact, presence of iron in case of seawater FGD has turned out to be, because the iron oxide actually works as a catalyst in seawater FGD. But I am not aware about any experimental studies done on limestone FGD with high iron content. So unfortunately, I will not be able to answer your question straight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
I will take a question from Paricha Thermal Power Plant. In those power plant where NOx emission rate below 450 ppm, what is it compulsory to install FGD?
I think your question would have been for NOx control. So if you are below 450 today, well, if your norm is either for 450 milligrams per normal meter cube for NOx or 100, if it is 450 normal meter cube, then you are going in for combustion modifications to achieve those norms for NOx control.
Okay. I have another question from P. Sundarajan, senior person from Coastal Energen. What is your opinion about recent CEA's proposal on defying FGD project if the ambient 24 hours average SO2 level is less than 440 UG/m cube?
Well, if what happens is, if the customer is talking about, if the requirement is 40 I think it should be milligrams if it's not micrograms. I don't know whether this is related to stack emissions or the ambient air quality in the nearby zone. If it is related to nearby ambient quality, then maybe it could be 40 microgram, but I need to check. But if you are looking at lower emissions than the 100 milligram norm, then definitely you need to continuously operate the FGD at a higher efficiency on a continuous basis. This means that you should actually end up having redundancy in the equipment for which the FGD has been designed, so that you can get good availability of your FGD system. Another factor which possibly will happen going forward with coal power generation plants is that there will be a lot of flexibility and load variation requirements which will come. So with lower loads and plant ramping up at various rates, it might so happen that at lower loads it might be easier to achieve lower efficiency, and at higher loads probably a slightly lower efficiency. Then on an overall average you have a better efficiency than for what the system has been designed.
But he says that the ambient value is 40 micrograms per meter cube.
So this is ambient air quality requirement. So this has to be done based on environmental studies which need to be done for dispersion studies. So this is not based on the stack emission requirement. This is based on the ambient air quality requirement. And for that, the modeling work needs to be done to really work out what the emission is needed in the stack.
This is a captive power plant of NALCO with 20 units of 120 megawatt. He wants to know, with the space constraints, how can we move ahead with FGD?
I think for smaller size power plants, our semi-dry FGD solutions are very, very compact in dimensions. And at times what happens is you can, if there are large ESPs, you can have you can shorten the ESP a little bit to ensure that the fly ash is generated and reused by the end user into some other industry. But you emit slightly higher norms from the existing ESP and then collect it in a semi-dry FGD system.
Okay,
so that can be done to achieve the norms.
Okay, I have Mr. Soundarajan directly live from Tuticorin. Soundarajan, your question, please.
Sir, actually, the question is, CEA is recently proposed that if the ambient SO2 level is less than 40 microgram, 24 hours average, then the FGD project shall be deferred. What is your opinion, sir?
So I think going by the current requirement where all the plants need to install the FGD by 2022, actually if we really look at the current situation in the market in terms of the plants which are ordered out, this is 2020 right now as we speak, we are closing on 2020, and normally a wet FGD plant requires at least 3 years for it to really get commissioned and start in operation. So whether we like it or not, with many end users not really ordering the system till date or tendering and closing their contracts, I think whether we like it or not, but the schedule would get deferred anyway. And yeah.
Can I take the next person, Mr. Soundarajan?
So only schedule is differing, or the project itself differing, sir?
So if you order out, at least you need around 2.5 to minimum 3 years to really commission the plant and start the plant operations. Even though on contracts, many of the plants are being requested for faster schedules, but there are construction issues. There are issues related to M&E and civil contractors in power plants. There are supply chain constraints on equipment and machinery. So there are lots of constraints which are there. So in practicality, a wet FGD system is actually more like a chemical plant with a substantial amount of construction needed in every plant. It is extremely difficult to go in for very, very tight execution schedules.
So one last question, sir.
Please.
We are using ultra low sulfur coal in the range of 0.08 to 0.1, and our SO2 levels is in the range of around 240 to 270.
Why do you purposely mention that ultra super low sulfur coal?
I will not use ultra, low sulfur I'm telling. 0.08 to 0.1 is the one what we normally use. So we are getting only our sulfur SO2 levels in the range of 230 to 270 range.
Yeah,
So
you are a little bit above the norm. So I think you will have to, and typically since you are going to leave very low SO2 capture, then it doesn't really make sense for you to go in for a dry FGD solution, for a wet FGD solution. You would possibly go in for dry sorbent injection, because since the SO2 norms SO2 is very, very low and you need to only bring it down marginally, even your alkali addition would going to be very, very low. So maybe you can run a few experiments with various reagents and see for yourself that how can you manage to meet the emissions without really doing a large investment.
Yeah, we're looking at to take some trial operation with the Sorbacol or Quicklime.
Yeah, you can try with the Sorbacol. Quicklime possibly will not really work because the performance of Quicklime is determined by the temperature at which the system operates. Maybe you can also try, since you are in the stages of experimentation, you can try various things, even maybe limestone injection in the boiler itself. I don't know, maybe you can experiment a lot with such a low efficiency requirement from your side.
600 megawatt unit it is actually, just for information.
Yeah, but you only need to get 20% down, so...
Yeah, around 20 to 30% maximum it comes actually. Yes, you're right.
Chandrasan, you're already using ultra super low grade sulfur coal. So I don't think so you need FGD at all.
That's what we are looking at.
Lower sulfur coal, that will help you even better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me take the question from the JP group from Bina. Is it okay with you, Mr. Sandarajan?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The team from JP, Bina.
Yeah. Am I audible, sir?
You are audible. Please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon. Sir, basically you compared a semi-dry FGD system with wet FGD system. And in semi-dry FGD system, you have asked regarding the modification in a stack. Sir, keeping the stack height same, can we use semi-dry FGD system or
yes? Actually, our requirement for the stack modifications is not getting impacted because of the height of the stack. The requirement of the stack modifications is coming because of corrosive gases which are there in the flue gas after the FGD. So if you're going in for a wet FGD system, a lot of SO3 remains in acidic form, which creates sulfurous acid or sulfuric acid, which will condense on the existing stack bricks, because you're operating the FGD at a very low temperature when it is a wet FGD with a saturated stack. So that is the reason why we are saying no stack modifications are needed on wet FGD. Whereas when we look at dry FGD, we know that almost 99% of the SO3, or rather we should say that the SO3 levels which are seen in a semi-dry FGD system are lower than the measured values, so typically lower than 1 milligram or so. And same applies for HCl and HF. And that is why we believe that most of the, since the acids are going to get captured in the system, that is why you are not really looking for any stack modifications in those plants.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I probably do not see anybody else raising the hands for the questions, or I don't see anybody putting the questions in the chats also. So probably I would like to thank Mr. Vajpayee for being with us, and Mr. Ravindra ji, he had another meeting to join, so he probably left the session. But the participants are always most welcome to ask their questions on the WhatsApp group, which is created, which is a temporary group and will get closed soon also. Moving forward, I would like to thank once again Mr. Vajpayee for answering the queries of the August gathering. With this, I will take a break and we will resume the session at 4:30. with a very interesting session to know from the power plants who have already implemented, who have complied norms. So they probably would share their ideas and their viewpoints in the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's have a tea, and we will join again 4:30. Thank you so much.
Thank you.